talk to your group, you should. You can even have a similar example, but your words and your ideas are your own on your own document.
Welcome to another episode of UEN's PDTV. In this episode, we have traveled to Park City High School to meet Utah's 2026 Teacher of the Year, Joanna Andres.
I moved here in 2017, started teaching at Weileman School of Discovery in Summit Park, and then I made my way to the high school in 2019. I've always been a social studies teacher. My bread and butter is political science and government. I had an opportunity about 4 years ago to take over the AP Gov program. And initially when I started, there were 2 classes, but now I have 5, so I've built the program. And I teach AP, and now it's also concurrent enrollment, AP concurrent enrollment government, and criminal law. So it's really exciting to get my students engaged in, I think, more to make them realize that they have not only rights, but they also have responsibilities. And there are a lot of responsibilities in order to engage, that come with engaging those rights. And I love it. I really, really love it.
EdTech Competency 4B focuses on information fluency. Throughout this episode, we'll see how Joanna empowers her AP government students to take on complex issues through research, questioning, and discussions, and helps them tackle polarizing issues and find common ground.
No matter what side you're on, like the facts are the facts.
I think you can't learn about government and politics without talking to people. Virtually every single assignment they have to talk, they have to brainstorm and share ideas, come up with their own work, but use it as inspiration. And then we oftentimes, after that, still talk as a whole class. And to facilitate that and foster that collaboration, they compete for team points. And there are a lot of advantages if you can win as a team, and you're also competing against other classes, and I have 7 classes. So anything I can do to foster that collaboration. And I think this class is a tool for diffusing a lot of the polarization we see in society right now.
I definitely noticed that pattern that you seem to have of, okay, do a little bit of research, here's the question, here's the topic, talk about it as a group, okay, now write about it individually, okay, now let's share whole group. And so I really liked that, going in between, time for your own thought gathering, but lots of time then to share it and to hear what others think about what you've presented.
Before we get into civil rights and civil liberties, we need to look at how it's represented in media and in the United States. To facilitate that conversation, you have an essential question, and it's a 2-parter. First, this isn't going to be hard. Find a current political event related to U.S. government, there it is, in politics. Include all 5 W's. Then, after that, and part of it, you need to include one of your main government principles. Popular sovereignty, republicanism, limited government, federalism. Federalism would be probably easy with a lot of these events that it's happening. Checks and balances and separation of powers, okay? So you need to find a current event and summarize it and apply it to one of your main principles, and then there's another part.
Scaffolding and stacking and building on activities, you do that a lot with concepts too, because you have to meet your AP government standards. So there's a lot of history I was noticing involved in that, and understanding the Constitution, along with this infusion of current events. Tell me more about your strategy with all of that.
I use current events, and I think people are like, oh my God, she talks about current events. I use them to reinforce the content. So I'm lucky in that College Board has 5 prescribed units, and I follow their order and the way in which that you should structure the content. But I infuse the content in current events throughout the entire year, so that it's constantly fresh, and they're constantly in the application process. They're taking what they've learned, they're taking that foundational information and applying it. Like for this unit right now, we're in Unit 3, which is civil rights and civil liberties, understanding the difference and also understanding what they are and how they apply to them and those rights and responsibilities. they have logs that they have to maintain throughout the year, and they're building them, and that ultimately becomes their study guide. But in order to get to the application phase, you have to get to like level 1 learning, where you're learning that content, you're understanding the terms, the laws, but how I maintain that engagement is applying it to those current events and being fact finders and going back and retrieving, because it's a year-long class. The test isn't until the beginning of May. So if I don't give them opportunities to constantly go back and pull and retrieve and apply, they'd lose it. So, and thankfully that strategy seems to have worked based on AP scores.
My news source was from Fox News, and it was about the ICE shooting in Minnesota. And what they chose to highlight in that was the reaction that the Minneapolis mayor had. And on Fox News, like I noticed, like they used a lot of like words like rage and like, you know, like the left leaders like rage of the situation is like they're trying to find some sort of like reason to hate on the right in this like time of tragedy is what they were like framing it as. History shows that today's revolutionaries often become tomorrow's reactionaries. And so they're trying to like, I feel like frame the left as like they're reacting to the situation like just crazy and out of context. I don't know.
No, but I agree. That's a good example. Thank you. Should we pause and talk about that event first? Because this is an opportunity for us to talk about current events and then move on. Okay, close your computer so we can give each other our undivided attention. Okay, no computers are open. If you want to volunteer, you will go next, but I ask for your respect while we talk about this event. I think this is the most important class you could take. I'm just saying, but I want them when they see their social media feed, which has a very specific algorithm, when they are on YouTube. I don't know how much television they actually watch, but I want them, when they see those things, to say, wait, is that true? Wait, what is that? Is that accurate? And, you know, and to be able to apply it to what they've learned, because you hear a lot of stuff, a lot of people are experts, and I think they leave this class pseudo-experts. They have that content knowledge so they can question things that they see and feel prepared, you know, to research things, but also to talk to people.
They like basically quoted like an interview that had been done with a Trump administration official. So I think the administration official is more agenda setting, and he was saying that
Thinking about the conversations and the amount of discussion that happens in your classroom, how did you set up your classroom, the culture, what expectations did you set to have civil dialogue with such intense topics?
I'm lucky in that my department and we worked together to create something called Habits of Mind. And they are professional learning standards. We created standards and then a series of expectations regarding, you know, how to be, what does professionalism look like? That looks like listening to other people. That looks like raising your hand when you want to talk. That looks like being open-minded and not, you know, and those standards drive the whole class. So they actually have a Habits of Mind grade every quarter. And, you know, it can be something as simple as, you know, part of my expectations are be in class on time, be professional, be a good listener, be here because your team relies on you, attendance matters. So that professionalism standard is the driver for their behavior in class. At the very beginning of the year, we talk about that grade. We talk about what are the components of that grade, what those standards look like. They're constantly reminded of that. In addition to that, they have their team points where their team members are holding them accountable. And it's shocking. I had one year, I think it was in the 2023 graduating class, I had one table where there was this one student who drove everybody crazy. He would say that you know, that provocative thing to get a lot of attention, and his teammates would hold him accountable. And I think that teamwork, that collaboration in conjunction with the Habits of Mind grade and expectations is really what drives that. And they motivate one another and they push one another to be better. But I think there's nothing wrong with some good competition. Competing against the other teams and other classes always helps. And the Federal Reserve is a regulatory commission. So the word expect is what really made you think that there was some. Okay.
Are there tools, specifically technology tools, that support you in teaching this class and the way that you teach it?
For sure. I think, as an AP teacher, College Board is always a good resource. I'll give them a shout out. That's a good resource. But I think for us, there's so much, it's so live. So a lot of it is media. We use a lot of media. We talk about what good media looks like, the difference between reporting and editorial. We talked about that a little bit today. The difference between fact and opinion and where those lines get blurred, how to find information.
And you're obviously transitioning back and forth all the time from the face-to-face to what they're doing on their computers, information to access on Canvas.
Oh, yeah.
I think you even mentioned that occasionally you utilize AI to help them dig into some topics.
I used AI in a positive way so that they see that it can be a tool instead of avoidance. There are political philosophers, Montesquieu, Rousseau, John Locke, and I had them debate the philosophers on a certain perspective. And they found that super exciting and frustrating. They're like, gosh, she's stubborn. Raina is the AI, is the name of the AI, and they say she's stubborn. And then in another instance, actually coming up, they're going to debate Supreme Court justices, and they're going to take the dissenting opinion against the majority. So it can be a very useful tool, and I think we can't pretend that it doesn't exist. We have to give them the tools. But also for me in my class, the more we do in class versus at home, the better.
That blended model is really important in what you're doing. Yeah. So what are your hopes for students, your goals for them by the time that they finish this class with you?
I hope that they know how important they are, that they've been seen more than anything, that they've been seen and that their ideas matter and have value. And I hope they develop the courage to share those ideas and to share those perspectives. And I also hope that they have the tools to do it effectively. I maintain a lot of connections and communication with my students. We stay connected, but I've also seen a lot of it just in the immediate future bleed out. They'll tell me about conversations they have with their parents. They'll tell me about conversations they have with friends and other teachers on campus, or frustrations that they experienced and how they handled that. And I actually have a lot of students who then decide to go into politics or study political science or go into law. But more than anything, they seem confident. And that's incredibly important to me.
Well, thank you so much for letting us join you today, observe your classroom, and see the great things you're doing. Also, congratulations on being Teacher of the Year.
Thank you so much for coming. It was really fun having you.
Now that you have seen EdTech Competency 4B in action, consider how you can implement this competency in your classroom as well. As always, start with the Utah core standards that you teach. Then, if you feel that structured classroom discussion and group project work would be beneficial for your curriculum, set very high expectations of how that will happen in your classroom to ensure that discussions are respectful and productive.
And I feel like you could see that here with
Bringing current events into your classroom, as Joanna did, can also be very effective. Utilize multimedia to help bring these different perspectives into your classroom. Some resources for media include UEN's eMedia Library and the Utah's Online School Library. Assessing credibility of resources is a very big part of this information fluency competency. There are a lot of resources out there that can help you help students learn how to do this. Some of these include the Association of College and Research Libraries, the National Association for Media Literacy Education, the book Developing Digital Detectives, and the Civic Online Reasoning Group. You can even enroll in UEN courses that focus on information literacy. Some of these courses include Navigating the Noise, Media Literacy for Educators, and Mastering UOSL for Effective Teaching. There's even a class on digital citizenship and information literacy for school leaders. Incorporating artificial intelligence into your classroom can also be very beneficial. To learn more about state-approved AI tools, be sure to visit uen.org, where you can find information about Magic School and a variety of other AI tools. For even more ideas, resources, strategies, and tools to help you implement this competency, be sure to visit uen.org/PDTV and access the teacher toolkit that accompanies this episode. Thanks for watching UEN's PDTV. To access more professional development resources from UEN and to schedule a training, visit uen.org/development. We'll see you next time.